All right. Let's maybe start with a scenario we all face, right? You're trying to convince your boss about a new project, maybe persuade your kid to clean their room or, land that big client. What's the first image that kind of springs to mind when you think selling?
Mm.
For a lot of us, it conjures something, well, let's be honest, a little negative, maybe even slimy or cushy.
Yeah, definitely. That traditional view of selling, it comes with all these negative ideas, and it often feels completely out of step with, like, how we actually interact today.
Right.
What's really fascinating, though, is how the reality of persuasion is just so much more nuanced and ethical and, frankly, kind of empowering.
Exactly. So welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really fresh look into the, well, surprising and highly effective science of persuasion.
Hmm.
And our mission, it's basically to totally flip that old school understanding on its head. We're going to explore why sales isn't really a dirty word and how all of us, whether we realize it or not, we're kind of in the business of moving people.
Yeah, get ready for some genuine aha moments, I think.
Yeah.
Ones that could really redefine your everyday interactions. We're drawing from this incredible collection of insights and research, especially from best-selling author Daniel Pink's masterclass, really trying to challenge those long-held beliefs about how to truly connect and, move others.
Okay, so let's jump right in by confronting that outdated image. Remember the aggressive, predatory car salesman, like
Sure.
Stanley Dewanski and your Buick Centurion convertible?
Oh, yeah.
Classic.
That's the old approach, right? Pushing, manipulating. And the core truth is it just doesn't work anymore, does it?
No, it's really a relic of a different time.
Yeah.
The idea that if someone shows up, they will buy, that's just gone. The world's changed, and, well, the effectiveness of those high-pressure tactics, it's pretty much evaporated.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Whether we actually call it selling or not, we are all persuading every single day.
If you're an entrepreneur raising money or an employee trying to convince your boss, a parent negotiating with a child, a physician discussing a treatment plan, even a teacher engaging a class, you're doing it.
Absolutely.
And the data actually shows that a staggering 40% of our time on the job, regardless of our title, is spent in what they call non-sales selling.
40%. That's huge.
Yeah, it's nearly half our work week spent influencing and convincing people.
That 40% figure, it's just such a critical point. It shows how pervasive these skills are way beyond just traditional sales roles. And yet,
Yeah.
if you survey, say, 5,000 Americans, the top word they associate with sales is still pushy. 20 of the top 25 adjectives are negative, slimy, sleazy, smarmy.
Oh.
And the overwhelming picture people describe: a man in a checkered blazer and polyester pants selling a crappy used car. And not a single woman was pictured in those descriptions.
That's telling, isn't it?
It really is. We kind of need to scrub this outdated idea from our minds because it just fundamentally misunderstands the modern world.
It feels like we're stuck in a time warp when it comes to the image of persuasion. And it's especially, ill-suited for today's world. Organizations are getting flatter.
Right.
Business climates are, well, tumultuous. Jobs are incredibly elastic. It's almost like playing a game of rugby with no rules.
Yeah.
We have to do more with less and be super versatile. And this environment, it demands not just specialized skills, but a much broader range of abilities and, crucially, strong persuasion skills.
And if we think about the biggest game changer here in persuasion over the last 10 years compared to the last 100 or even 1,000,
Right.
It's got to be information.
Yes, information.
Historically, there was always this information asymmetry, right? The seller always knew more than the buyer.
Buyer beware.
Exactly. Caveat emptor, think of, a doctor with privileged medical knowledge back in the day.
Right. And today, that whole paradigm is flipped completely.
Right.
We're now in an era of, information parity.
Oh.
Buyers have vast amounts of info right at their fingertips, endless choices, platforms to talk back, think Glassdoor reviews, or just Googling medical symptoms.
Right. Or researching car prices before you even step on the lot.
Exactly. So now it's seller beware, caveat venditor, and this shift, it fundamentally changes the rules of engagement. You can't just push information anymore. You have to earn trust, provide real value.
So, okay, if we can't just force people to do things anymore, how do we actually move them? What's the key?
Well, the answer seems to be attunement.
Attunement, okay.
It sounds simple, but it's actually quite profound. It means taking someone else's perspective, really seeing the world through their eyes, not just your own. We have to find that common ground.
Okay, that makes sense. Finding common ground.
And to really highlight this, maybe try a quick exercise with us right now. Find your dominant hand. Okay, now snap your fingers 5 times quickly.
Snap, 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 snap. Okay.
Done. Now, with your index finger, draw a capital E on your forehead. Go ahead. Did you draw it so you could read it or so others could read it?
Ah, that's clever. I drew it for others.
Most people who are good perspective takers do. Drawing it for others means you're instinctively taking their perspective. It's a simple little act, but it forces your brain, just for a second, to step outside its own egocentric view.
That's really interesting. Think about that for a sec. How often in our day do we truly, consciously try to see something from someone else's point of view instead of just assuming ours is the default?
That ego exercise really brings it home, doesn't it? And here's a surprising twist on this, something called the power paradox.
Power paradox, okay.
Research shows there's actually an inverse relationship between how powerful you feel and your ability to take someone else's perspective.
Wait, so the more powerful you feel, the worse you are at seeing things from other people's perspective.
Exactly. High-status individuals, people who feel powerful, they actually struggle more to see other viewpoints.
Wow. But conversely, people who feel lower in status, they're often excellent perspective takers.
Right, because as the research suggests, their survival depends on their being able to take the perspective of people who do have the resources.
So that raises a really important question for, bosses and leaders then. How do you fight that tendency?
Well, the counterintuitive solution seems to be to actively reduce your own feelings of power.
Reduce your feeling of power. How?
Just remind yourself, maybe mentally, our organization needs the team more than they need me, or something similar. Just consciously trying to turn that internal power dial down a notch. It's a simple mental trick, but it can make a big difference in opening you up to other perspectives.
That's fascinating. Turn the power dial down. And speaking of simple, powerful techniques, there's the empty chair idea.
Oh, yes, the empty chair. I love this one.
So simple. In any meeting, just leave one chair empty. And that chair represents the most important person not in the room, usually the customer or the end user or whoever you're trying to serve.
Right. It physically focuses everyone's minds on their perspective. It can be incredibly useful for strategy, marketing, even internal HR decisions.
It's a brilliant, basically free way to keep centering that critical perspective. Now, okay, when we talk about understanding others, we often mix up empathy and perspective taking.
Yeah, they sound similar.
They're related, like fraternal twins, but not identical. Empathy is more about feeling someone's situation. That's the hard part. Perspective taking is about understanding their thoughts and interests. That's the head part.
Heart versus head. Got it.
And in a negotiation study, like one about a gas station sale, they found that people told to focus on the other side's thoughts and interests. The perspective taking actually achieved better outcomes than those who were told to focus on feelings, the empathy group.
Interesting. So when things get intense or maybe you're feeling cognitively overloaded, it's better to prioritize that thinking and cognitive channel.
That seems to be the takeaway, yeah.
Yeah.
And related to that, don't just get caught up in emotions, yours or theirs. Try to decode them as signals.
So decode emotions as signals. Okay.
So if your boss seems frustrated, instead of just reacting and getting upset yourself, try to hypothesize. Are they worried about the numbers? Is there pressure from somewhere else, another project maybe?
And then you test it.
Exactly.
Right.
Formulate hypotheses, then test them by asking questions. Like, it sounds like you might be feeling some pressure from the vendors right now. Is that right?
That shifts it from being reactive to being proactive, trying to understand the why behind the feeling.
Precisely. It's a cornerstone of really effective persuasion.
So ultimately, this brings us to a core principle of modern persuasion, doesn't it? Our goal, really, as persuaders, is to serve others, to help move them to a better place.
Yes, fundamentally.
And maybe the best way to be a good persuader is actually just to be a decent human being.
It sounds simple, but it's profound. And there are two key ways to bring this to life. Make it personal and make it purposeful.
Make it personal, make it purposeful.
Okay,
Yeah.
Making it personal means getting away from abstractions. Put a human face on whatever you're doing. There was this really powerful study with radiologists.
Oh, I remember reading about this one.
Yeah. Radiologists who saw a patient's photo right alongside their x-ray. They spent significantly more time analyzing the scan. They were more meticulous.
And the amazing part.
The amazing part is this elevated performance stuck around. Even 6 months later, when they were given the same scans without the photos, they were still more effective. Just literally putting a face on it had this lasting impact.
That's incredible. It shows how these seemingly small things can ripple outwards. Okay, so that's making it personal. What about making it purposeful?
Making it purposeful is about tapping into people's intrinsic motivations, their higher sense of purpose. Think about that hospital hand hygiene study.
In North Carolina, right?
That's the one. They tried signs appealing to pure self-interest, like hand hygiene prevents you from catching diseases.
Didn't work.
Nope, no effect. Generic slogans like gel in, wash out,
Mm.
also no effect. But the sign that worked, and worked profoundly.
Let me guess. Focused on the patient.
You got it. Hand hygiene prevents patients from catching diseases. It tapped into why the staff were there in the first place, their core purpose, which was to help people.
That really reframes the whole interaction.
It does. And it leads to these two essential questions you should ask yourself before any persuasive encounter. Really basic, but powerful.
Okay, what are they?
First, if the other person does what I want them to do, will they actually be better off?
Okay, question one.
And second, if the other person does what I want, will the world be slightly better off? Even just a tiny bit.
So will they benefit and will the world benefit?
Yeah. And if the answer to either of those is no, well, maybe it's time to rethink what you're doing. It acts like a strong ethical compass.
That's a really good check. Okay, so we've attuned ourselves, we're focused on service. How do we make sure our message actually lands? That seems crucial.
Absolutely. And that's where clarity comes in. Clarity isn't just about being understood. It's about helping people see their situation in a new, fresh light. Maybe even surfacing problems they didn't realize they had.
So it's not just about simplifying.
Not entirely. In today's world, with so much information, expertise isn't really about having exclusive access to facts anymore. It's about curating that information.
Ah, curation, like a museum curator.
Exactly. Your role as a persuader, often, is to be that curator, to separate the signal from the noise for your audience. Think of a doctor helping a patient make sense of all the stuff they found online, rather than just dismissing it.
That really reframes expertise, doesn't it? From just having info to making sense of it.
Precisely. And it also involves a shift from just problem solving to problem finding.
Problem finding.
Yeah. If a customer already knows exactly what their problem is, chances are they can find solutions online themselves. They might not even need you.
Okay.
The real value, the premium now, is often in problem finding, identifying those hidden problems, or maybe correcting their misunderstanding of the problem they think they have.
Like the vacuum cleaner example you mentioned.
Exactly. The customer says, I need a vacuum cleaner. But is that the real problem? Or is the real problem, I want clean floors?
Ah, right. Because a clean floors opens up totally different solutions. New screens, maybe different carpet, maybe a cleaning service.
Exactly. It's a much more valuable contribution than just selling them a vacuum. And this often requires digging deeper.
How do you do that reliably?
Well, one great technique is the 5 whys. Basically, act like a curious 4-year-old. When someone presents an issue, just keep asking why about 5 times.
Okay, give me an example.
So the management consultant example. Client says, I can't afford your services. Okay, why? We've had budget cuts. Why? Well, low revenue from one product line. Why was revenue low? Our talented leader for that line left. Why did they leave? Actually, our hiring practices weren't great.
And boom, suddenly the consultant isn't talking about their fees. They've uncovered the real problem they can help solve. Improving hiring practices.
Exactly. It gets to the root cause, not just the symptom.
That's brilliant. It's all about digging. Okay, so clarity. Getting to the root. What about constructing the actual argument? How many points should you make? I always feel like more is better.
That's what most of us think. But research suggests we tend to overvalue adding things and undervalue subtracting. Less is often more persuasive.
Really? Less is more.
Yeah. So, studies found offering 1 argument is better than 0. Makes sense. 2 is better than 1. 3 arguments, better than 2. But here's the kicker. 4 arguments actually started to deteriorate persuasiveness.
4 was worse than 3. Why?
It seems like it starts to feel like you're trying too hard, or it just creates confusion, like cognitive overload for the listener. So the advice, stop at 3.
Wow. Stop at 3 strong arguments. That's a powerful counterintuitive insight. Okay.
So all right, we've attuned ourselves, we focused on service, we've achieved clarity. Now for the big one. How do we get people to actually act?
Yeah, the action part.
I think the most important realization here is that the goal isn't really to do something to someone. It's more about creating a situation where they can do something for themselves.
Ah, so it's about their own motivation.
Exactly. When people feel like they have their own reasons for doing something, they're way more likely to actually do it, and importantly, to stick with it.
Okay, so how do we foster that? This brings us to that difference you mentioned between irritation and agitation, right?
Precisely. Irritation is when you're trying to get someone to do what you want them to do. It's often controlling. It's leading with your mouth.
Nagging, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Agitation, though, is different. It's about getting someone to do what they probably ought to do and maybe deep down actually want to do. It's more about leading with your ears, asking questions. Like,
Yep.
so what do you think is the best way forward here? Questions like that spark their own motivations.
That's a huge difference. Leading with your ears, not your mouth.
And a fantastic technique for this kind of agitation is called motivational interviewing. It uses these two almost kind of irrational sounding questions.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Irrational questions.
Yeah. So instead of nagging your teenager, again, to clean their room, you try this. First, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you right now to clean your room?
Okay, let's say they grunt and say 2.
Right. Then you say, cool, why didn't you pick a lower number?
Why didn't you pick a lower number? What does that do?
It forces them to start arguing for change themselves. They have to articulate their own reasons, even small ones, for why it's not a 0 or a 1. Maybe, well, I don't know, I lost my homework in there last week, or I guess my friends complain.
Ah, they start listing the downsides themselves.
Exactly. And those reasons, coming from them, are infinitely more powerful than you listing them. And if they do say 0, then you ask, okay, what could we maybe do to get it to a 1? Still collaborative.
That forces self-generated motivation. That's really clever. Okay, what else works for getting action?
Well, never underestimate the power of social proof.
Ah, social proof. Everyone else is doing it.
Basically, yeah. When we're unsure what to do, we look around for cues from others. So bring that evidence with you. The classic hotel towel study is perfect here.
Right, the towels.
Standard signs asking guests to reuse towels got maybe 35% compliance. But when the sign said, a majority of guests who stay in this hotel, 75% of them reuse their towels,
Compliance went up.
jumped to 44%. And when they made it even more specific, most guests who stayed in this room reuse their towels, it went up again to 49%.
Wow, making it specific and relevant makes a huge difference.
It's not just data, it's relatable data. And finally, maybe the most important thing for getting action. Make it easy.
Make it easy. Seems obvious, but
It's ridiculously powerful and often overlooked. You have to build them an off-ramp. Make the desired action as frictionless as possible.
like that food drive study.
Exactly. At a university, they identified students who were judged least likely to donate. When those students got a super specific message addressed by name, detailed exactly what food to bring, where to drop it off, even included a map, and mentioned a follow-up call.
What happened?
25% of those least likely students donated, which was actually more than the most likely students who only got a general, non-specific request.
That's astonishing. It wasn't about their personality, it was about the situation.
Precisely. It highlights that fundamental attribution error we all make. We overweight personality traits and underweight the power of the context, the situation. It wasn't about who was inherently generous. It was about how easy it was made for them.
And sometimes making it easy to act can even change beliefs later.
Yeah, sometimes you don't even need to fully convince someone beforehand. If you make it super easy for them to take a small action, the action itself can start to shift their beliefs and make future related actions more likely. Action can create belief.
Okay, so we've got them to act. But how do we build that essential rapport and connection during a persuasive encounter, especially if things are a bit tense?
Right. Building that connection is key. And one surprisingly effective tool is strategic mimicry.
Mimicry, like copying people, doesn't that seem fake?
It sounds a bit like old folklore, or maybe manipulative, but the research says it's actually true and often happens subconsciously. We humans are natural mimickers. It's part of how we understand each other and build connection.
Okay, so how do you do it strategically without being creepy?
There's a simple process. Watch, wait, Wayne.
Wait, Wayne, okay.
First, you watch their posture, their gestures, even their language, the specific words they use. Then you wait a bit, maybe count to 10 silently. Then subtly, you wait. That just means you gently mimic one or two of their gestures or maybe use a key phrase they use.
So it's subtle.
Very subtle. Then you let it slide, maybe repeat later if it feels natural. The key is subtlety. Research shows 95% of people don't even consciously notice it, but it makes them feel heard and understood. It builds a subconscious bond.
Wow. And using their language is part of that.
Huge part. Remember that restaurant study in Holland? Servers who repeated customer orders back word for word verbatim earned 70% more in tips than those who just paraphrased or said, okay.
70%. Just for using their exact words.
Yep. Use their words. not your own jargon or preferred phrasing. Beyond mimicry, another crucial element is persuasive framing.
Framing, how you position something.
Exactly. People are often stimulus-rich but context-poor. We're bombarded with information but lack the context to make sense of it. A good frame helps people see a situation clearly, focuses their attention on what matters, and helps set the terms of the discussion.
And we can actually use known cognitive biases to help frame things effectively.
Absolutely. Think of them as tools. For instance, loss aversion. We feel the pain of a loss much more intensely than the pleasure of an equivalent gain.
Right, losing $10 feels worse than finding $10 feels good.
Exactly. So when you're persuading, try framing your message around what the other person stands to lose if they don't take action. Think about how insurance is sold. It's all about avoiding potential loss.
That makes sense. What's another frame?
How about the blemish ring? This one's interesting. You reveal a small, minor negative after you've listed a whole bunch of positives.
Wouldn't that hurt your case? Highlighting a flaw.
Counterintuitively, no. If the flaw is small and comes after the positives, it triggers that compared to what? Thinking in the listener's mind. The small blemish makes the strong positive seem even more credible and attractive by contrast. Like saying, these amazing hiking boots have all these features, but unfortunately, they only come in 2 colors.
Huh. The tiny flaw makes the good stuff seem even better. Okay, that's clever.
Then there's the less is more frame, especially regarding choices. We think offering more choice is always good, but it can backfire.
The jam study.
The famous jam study, exactly. At Stanford, they set up a tasting booth. When they offered 24 varieties of jam, only 3% of people who stopped actually bought any. But when they offered just 6 varieties, 30% bought jam.
10 times more sales with fewer options.
Yeah. Too much choice leads to paralysis. Better is better, but more isn't always better.
Good reminder. What else?
Anchoring. This is a big one. The very first piece of information someone hears tends to disproportionately influence all subsequent judgments.
So first impressions really count, especially with numbers.
Definitely. If you're, say, a designer, pricing a project, making the first offer, especially if the value you provide is genuinely high, can set a high anchor that shapes the rest of the negotiation.
So these frames, they're like tools in a workshop.
That's a great way to think about it. Loss aversion, blemish, less is more, anchoring. You pick the right tool for the specific situation you're facing.
Okay, got it. Now let's take pitching. Pitching like a pro. A lot of us dread this or get it wrong.
Yeah, and a big reason is misunderstanding the purpose of a pitch. Research, like studies with screenwriters pitching Hollywood producers, shows that the most effective pitches, they aren't these big ta-da moments where you just wait for applause.
So what are they then?
Effective pitches actually invite the other side in as a collaborator. The real objective isn't necessarily to get an immediate yes on the spot. It's often to begin a conversation and start building a collaboration.
Okay, shift the goal from getting the yes to starting the conversation. That takes some pressure off.
It really does. And one way to do that is with the question pitch.
Pitching with a question.
Yeah. This works really well when the facts are strongly on your side. Questions are inherently interactive, right? They demand a response and engage the other person's mind.
Like Reagan in 1980.
Exactly. Ronald Reagan asking, "Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?" That forced voters to actually think and self-generate their own reasons for dissatisfaction with the incumbent.
But you have to be careful.
Oh, absolutely. If the facts are not clearly on your side, asking a question like that can be really perilous. Mitt Romney found that out in 2012 when he asked the same question against Obama, and it likely reminded voters of the recent recession, which didn't help him.
Right place, right time for that one. Okay, what else?
How about the rhyming pitch?
Rhyming. Seriously, doesn't that sound cheesy?
It sounds cheesy, maybe, but it's surprisingly brilliant from a cognitive perspective. Rhymes increase what psychologists call processing fluency.
Processing fluency.
Basically, the message just goes down easier. It feels smoother, more familiar, more absorbable. And because of that, it's often perceived as more truthful or accurate.
Like Johnny Cochran.
The classic example. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. From the O.J. Simpson trial. Decades later, people still remember that line because the rhyme made it stick. There was even a study showing people rated rhyming proverbs as more insightful than non-rhyming versions of the exact same idea.
Wow. Never underestimate a good rhyme.
Okay.
What's next?
Then you've got the Pixar pitch.
Like the movies.
Exactly. It's based on their classic narrative structures, a 6-sentence formula. Once upon a time, every day, one day. Because of that, until finally.
I've heard of this.
It's great because it forces you to clarify your own message into a compelling story arc. Again, it's structured to invite conversation and collaboration. Super useful for entrepreneurs trying to explain their vision quickly.
Makes sense. What about something shorter, like really short?
Okay, how about the one-word pitch?
Hmm.
Sometimes called one-word equity.
What?
Yeah, the idea, championed by folks like advertising exec Lord Sachi, is to try and own one word in people's minds. Think about Google. Their word is probably search. Obama's 2008 campaign. The word was hope.
So finding that single defining word.
It's powerful as a pitch, sure, but it's also just a fantastic internal exercise for any person or organization to really distill their essence down. What's your one word?
That's a tough question. Okay, switching gears slightly. Email. Every email is kind of a pitch, right?
Especially the subject line.
Totally. Every email is competing for attention. And research suggests two factors matter most for subject lines getting opened: utility and curiosity.
Utility and curiosity.
Utility means the subject line clearly shows value or benefit, like 2 more ideas for the budget cuts. Curiosity means it piques interest by creating a bit of intriguing doubt, like, weird idea I just had.
So not just follow-up or meeting request. Please no. Avoid that bland, dead armadillo middle ground. And there's a nuance. For people who get tons of email, lean towards utility. They need to know why they should open it. For people with lower email volume, you can lean more into curiosity.
Good tip. Utility for busy people, curiosity for less busy ones. Okay, regardless of the type of pitch question, rhyme, Pixar, email, are there core things it always needs to achieve?
Absolutely. No matter what format you use, your pitch needs to implicitly or explicitly answer 3 essential questions in the listener's mind.
Yeah.
1, what do you want me to W?
No. Okay.
2, what do you want me to feel?
Feel, right?
And 3, what do you want me to D?
No, feel, do. If you can answer those clearly for yourself, your pitch will be much stronger.
You got it. If you're clear on those 3 things, you're well on your way.
Okay, so this is all great for persuading others, but what about applying all this to ourselves? Can we use persuasion for self-management, like asking for a raise or just finding motivation?
Absolutely. These tools are surprisingly effective for internal use, too. Let's take persuading up, asking for a raise, for example. Rule number 1 is always, always, always appeal to your boss's interest.
Not just what's fair to me.
Well, fairness matters, but you have to frame it in terms of what's in it for them. Bosses, consciously or not, tend to categorize people. Does this person make my life easier, or do they make my life harder? You want to be in the first category.
Okay, so how do I do that when asking for more money?
Don't just list your accomplishments. Frame your value as solving their problems. For instance, instead of "I did X, Y, and Z," maybe try something like, "Look, I know one of your challenges is high staff turnover," or whatever their problem is. "My work on Project X actually reduced that by Y%, saving the department Z dollars. Keeping experienced people like me helps solve that problem and boosts the bottom line."
Ah, so connect my performance directly to solving their pain point.
Exactly. Then gently suggest the next steps, maybe even subtly hinting at the consequence of unfair treatment or inaction. Like, if we want to keep good people motivated and contributing at this level, we need to ensure compensation reflects that value. And if you're feeling uneasy about even asking, use that compared to what? Frame on yourself.
Compared to what?
Compared to not getting the raise you deserve and maybe feeling undervalued or looking elsewhere, it reframes the risk.
That's a really practical way to approach those difficult conversations. Okay, what about just dealing with rejection and staying motivated? Life involves a lot of no's.
It sure does. Daniel Pink calls it an ocean of rejection. We hate it, obviously, but we can't change that reality. So we have to equip ourselves to stay buoyant.
Buoyancy, I like that. How?
One really interesting technique is interrogative self-talk.
Interrogative, like asking questions.
Yeah, instead of just telling yourself, "You can do it, you got this,"
Yeah.
which is standard positive self-talk,
Yeah.
try asking yourself questions. Can I actually do this? If so, how am I going to do it?
How does asking help more than affirming?
Because the question prompts your brain to start strategizing, rehearsing, preparing. It elicits the reasons and the plan for success, which research shows actually improves performance more than just blind affirmation.
Can I do this and how? Okay.
Yep.
What else for buoyancy?
Understanding your explanatory style, how you explain bad events to yourself. When we face rejection or failure, we often tend to catastrophize by making it about the 3 Ps.
The 3 Ps.
Yeah, we make it 1, personal, it's all my fault. 2, pervasive, this failure means I'm bad at everything, or this always happens. And 3, permanent, it's always going to be like this, I'll never succeed.
Ouch. Yeah, I think we all do that sometimes.
We do. So the key to buoyancy is to actively argue against those 3 Ps. Rebut them. Remind
Oh,
yourself,
yeah.
okay, it's probably not entirely personal. External factors played a role. It's definitely not pervasive. I succeed in other areas. And it's almost certainly not permanent. Things change. I can learn and try again.
So challenge the personal, pervasive, permanent thinking.
Exactly. Treat yourself with a bit of self-compassion like you would a friend going through the same thing.
That's a good advice. Now, there's this common idea, this folklore, that extroverts make the best salespeople, the best persuaders. Is that true?
That's what everyone assumes. But the research, it shows the correlation between extroversion and actual sales performance is basically zero.
Zero. Really?
Yep. Strong introverts tend to perform poorly, that's true. But guess what? So do strong extroverts.
Why would strong extroverts do poorly?
Often because they might talk too much and not listen enough. They can overwhelm the customer or fail to tune in to their actual needs.
So if it's not introverts or extroverts, who are the best?
Winners are the ambiverts.
Ambiverts, people in the middle.
Exactly. People who are a mix, a little bit introverted and a little bit extroverted, they significantly outperform both the strong introverts and the strong extroverts. They seem to have a better natural sense of when to push and when to hold back, when to speak up, and when to shut up and listen.
That's fascinating, the ambivert advantage.
And the really good news, most people actually are ambiverts. We fall somewhere on that spectrum, not pegged at either extreme.
Okay, and even if you lean strongly one way, you can adjust a bit.
You can't fundamentally change your personality, no. But you can stretch. Introverts can push themselves to initiate conversations sometimes, maybe practice on a plane. Extroverts can consciously practice listening more, maybe try ending more statements with a question to invite input. Listening especially is a learned skill.
Small steps toward the center.
Okay.
And just for general self-motivation, day-to-day, any quick tools?
Yeah, a few simple ones work wonders. If you're feeling totally unmotivated to start a task, try the just 5 more technique.
Just 5 more?
Commit to doing just 5 more of whatever it is, 5 more emails, 5 more sentences, 5 more reps, 5 more minutes. Often, just starting that small chunk builds enough momentum to keep going and do much more.
I like that. Breaks the inertia.
Exactly. Also, making a public commitment is surprisingly powerful. Tell friends or post on social media about a goal you have. That little bit of social accountability makes you much more likely to follow through.
Creates external pressure in a good way.
Right. And please, don't undervalue taking real breaks. Seriously. They are severely underestimated for restoring mental energy.
What makes a good break?
Research suggests the best breaks are ideally outside, involve some movement, are taken with other people, social connection, and this is crucial, are done without your phone.
Ah, ditch the phone. That's the hard part.
It is. But scrolling social media isn't really a restorative break for your brain. Breaks aren't wasted time. They are essential fuel for sustained performance and creativity.
Good reminder. Okay, finally, let's touch on timing. The when of persuasion. You said it's often overlooked.
Hugely overlooked. We obsess over what to say and how to say it,
Yeah.
but we often completely ignore when to say it. Timing isn't everything, maybe, but it's definitely a big thing.
Okay, so give me an example. Like in a competition presentations, interviews, is it better to go first or last?
Ah, the serial position effect. It depends. The general guidelines are go first. If you are not the default choice, you need to make a strong initial impression. Or if there are only a few competitors, primacy effect is stronger. Or if your competitors are known to be very strong, going later means people might be looking for flaws.
Okay, go first if you're the underdog or the field is small or tough. When should you go last?
Go last if you are the perceived default or frontrunner. Recency effect helps solidify you. If there are many competitors, evaluations tend to get higher towards the end as judges get calibrated. Or if the evaluation criteria are unclear at the start, let others define the playing field, then you can show how you meet or exceed those expectations.
That's really useful strategic advice. Okay, what about delivering news? Good news versus bad news. I always thought you should lead with the good news to soften the blow.
That's what most people think. But the research is clear. About 4 out of 5 people actually prefer to get the bad news first, followed by the good news.
Bad news first. Why?
People seem to prefer rising sequences. Ending on a high note leaves a better overall feeling and memory of the interaction, even if the news content is the same. So, yeah, you might have been doing it wrong.
Apparently. Good to know. Ending on an upswing. Does time of day matter for requests?
It seems to. We all have a default answer, and often for busy people, that default is no. The data suggests you have a marginally better chance of getting a yes if you approach people early in the day before decision fatigue sets in, or immediately after they've had a break, like after lunch, or even after suggesting you take a quick walk together first.
Interesting. Those small edges can add up.
They really can over time.
And what about the rhythm of projects or life? Beginnings, middles, endings? Do they have different persuasive pulls?
Absolutely. Each stage exerts a different kind of influence. Beginnings are powerful because they shape the trajectory. We're more motivated at beginnings. You can leverage this by picking temporal landmarks, like the start of a week, Monday, the first of the month, the day after your birthday, for initiating new goals or habits.
Use those fresh starts.
Yeah. And a great technique for beginnings is the pre-mortem. Before you start a big project, imagine it's a year from now and everything has gone disastrously wrong. Then work backward to figure out what could have caused the failure and how to prevent it from the start.
Pre-mortem. Love that. Okay, what about middles? They often feel like a slump.
Middles are often motivationally tricky, kind of invisible, but they can either cause a slump or actually fire us up. The key is to be conscious of them. If you realize you're at the midpoint of a project or timeline, one trick is to mentally frame it as if you're slightly behind schedule.
Even if you're not.
Yeah, like how halftime coaches often tell their team they're down by 1 point even if they're tied. That perception of being slightly behind can reignite urgency and galvanize action to push through the middle.
Clever psychological trick. And endings.
Endings might be the most important of all, psychologically. They do 3 things. They energize us. Seeing the finish line makes us speed up. Think about marathon runners who suddenly find energy in the last mile, or people hitting ages ending in 9 being more likely to run their first marathon. Short deadlines often work better than long ones for this reason.
Okay, energize. What else?
Endings elevate. Remember that preference for rising sequences? How we feel at the very end of an experience tends to lift our overall evaluation, like rating the last chocolate candy in a sequence higher, even if it was identical to earlier ones.
Energize, elevate.
And the third, endings in code. How an experience ends disproportionately impacts our overall memory of the entire experience. Think about restaurant reviews. The last interaction with the server or the bill often colors the whole meal. It's true for vacations, projects, even how we remember life stories. The end looms large in memory.
Wow. So being really intentional about how things conclude is critical.
Absolutely. Be intentional, not accidental, especially at those key moments, beginnings, middles, and particularly endings.
What a journey we've taken today. We've really dug into this huge landscape of persuasive tools, from understanding basic human nature and leveraging cognitive biases, all the way to crafting effective pitches and even building our own personal resilience.
It's been quite a tour. And if we try to zoom out and connect the dots, maybe 3 big meta lessons stand out from all this.
Okay, 3 big takeaways.
First, context matters.
Yeah.
Hugely. Pay attention to the situation, the environment, the timing. Try to shape it where you can, because context drives so much of behavior, often more than we realize.
Right. It's not just about the person, it's the situation.
Got it. Number 2. Second, give people autonomy. Remember, people are vastly more likely to act and to stick with that action when they feel they have found their own reasons for doing so. Your job isn't just to push, it's often to help them find those internal motivations.
Lead with your ears. Help them find their why. Makes sense. And the third lesson.
And third, maybe the simplest but most important, do the right thing. Take the high road.
Yeah.
Be ethical. Focus on positive-sum outcomes.
The decent human being approach.
Exactly. And the beauty is, not only will you sleep better at night, but that ethical, service-oriented, positive-sum persuasion. It's ultimately more effective in the long run. It builds trust, fosters collaboration, and creates genuine win-win scenarios where everyone actually is better off.
So what this really means for you listening right now is maybe a fundamental shift in how you think about influencing others.
Yeah, it's not about tricks or manipulation.
Right. Persuasion isn't about manipulation. It's really about maybe changing the world for the better, just one thoughtful interaction at a time. The real beauty of digging into this stuff, I think, is realizing that by mastering these kinds of skills, you're not just becoming a better seller in the traditional sense.
No, not at all.
You're actually becoming a more effective, more ethical, and just a more engaged human being overall. So now the challenge is to go forth and experiment, right?
Okay.
What combination of these tools, attunement, clarity, buoyancy, framing, timing, what mix will you bring to your next conversation, your next pitch?